Welcome back to the Castaway Consultants, where we teach future Survivor players how to play the game by criticizing current players. Today, we are talking about Survivor 48, Episode 5, Masterclass in Deception. I'm one of your co-hosts, Josh Wes- hmm. I'm one of your co-hosts, Josh Wessler, joined
Joss
today.
Whedon.
No, Josh Wessler. I am one of your co-hosts, Josh Wessler, joined today by Derek Kubicek and Ryan Stacy. How are you guys doing?
I see what you did there, and I appreciate it. That was punitive, throwing
Mm,
Ryan's name to the back, and now Ryan's gonna leave that in.
he
Uh,
deserves to be last.
yeah, that's fine. That's fine. Worth it. I was almost great. I was so close to being great. This was so close to being an elite episode of Survivor, and they blew it at the end.
Oh,
to,
interesting. Okay.
to me, this is still Elite Survivor. We're getting one of the all-time moments. It's one of the moments that you tell your friends about to try and get them into Survivor. Obviously, it was hyped up all week in the promos. That makes this a little less evergreen, but they said in 48 seasons, we've never had a moment like this in Survivor. And then Jeff is crying, and we get resolution to those promos tonight, and that's a lot of fun.
Yep.
I will say we were this close to perfection. We were this close to perfection. We fall just short of what would have been a perfect episode of Survivor, in my opinion. But I mean, this is elite.
I know which way you guys are going with this, and I don't completely agree. Yes, this was a very good episode. For those who don't know, we watch separately right now. And so I am recording remotely at my own place. Ryan and Derek are watching together. So they might have some similar views because, groupthink is a thing. But, I really enjoyed this episode. I was very satisfied with the ending of Tribal. I'll just say that.
It could have been so good.
It could have been good.
It
It
could have
could have been
been
good, but the result that we got was, I think, just as good.
no. Just no, absolutely not just as good. No way. No
When
how.
when I am sitting on my couch laughing hysterically just because of, like, without spoilers, the person who gets voted out tonight did this to themselves, and I thought that that was hilarious. And could someone else have gone home that would have been more satisfying? Sure. Was it still enjoyable, and was it good, capping to the episode overall? Yes, in my opinion, yes.
My reaction was the shouting the word "what" with a extreme hint of irritation.
Honestly, guys, I'm just ready to get into spoilers here because I think we've prefaced enough here.
Okay, let's get into it. And spoiler alert in three,
Go
two,
watch it.
one. Yeah, we could have gotten rid of Say here. We were this close, and no, we're gonna lose Bianca instead. And I am a sad boy. I wanted it to be Say so bad. It should have been Say. Ugh, ugh.
It wasn't very surprising because it just didn't feel like her time. I didn't think that there's enough of a build up here. It felt like those. Maybe if I had a complaint, that'd be the only thing. Is I'm like, I don't know how. I don't know how it's gonna be. Someone like Bianca or maybe Chrissy tonight, because it makes sense to be Say, but it doesn't feel like Say's time. And then it wasn't.
It's interesting from an editology perspective because I'm with Josh that the edit didn't make it seem like it was going to be Say now that I think about it, but in the moment, I felt it was going to be Say. And I was so ready for a perfect episode of Survivor.
Mhm.
But hey, you know what? We cannot say that we don't have a lot to talk about tonight.
Very true. All right, so let's get into the episode proper then, huh?
Let's do it.
All right, so we're gonna get back to camp after the previous tribal council with Vula. We do get it confirmed Kyle played the extra vote. Survivor, tell us that last week. This is such a simple thing. Show Kyle voting twice. So simple. I don't want to have to wait a week to understand which hardware got played. That's really annoying. But yeah, that's done. And he and Camilla are gonna continue to act like they aren't super close because now we're looking at a 2-2 deadlock if they go back to tribal council.
And worth mentioning because when I listened to our episode back this week, I was a little bit confused about our coverage of it. So 20 seconds to straighten it out. Essentially, they played the extra vote because without Thomas's steal a vote, it guaranteed them that they were going to be safe because Kyle plays the idol on himself, or the 3 votes are put on someone in order to deadlock a tie, and then Kyle already played the idol on himself. Force a tie again. Those 2 are immune. One of the California girls goes home. Excellent play by them. Even worse of a play by Thomas now for withholding the steal a vote. And we can finally put this to bed with certainty.
We're going to get a reward challenge in this episode. Normally, who cares? But there are a couple things to note here. Loggy's going to win. Vula's going to take second. And obviously, Loggy is very happy about winning, especially Mary, because she's won almost nothing this whole season. And Say is like, you guys are too happy, you know, be more humble in your wins. And everybody, even Say's own tribe members, like, you don't need to speak everything that's on your mind. And they think, you know, she thinks they're poor winners, but they're like, no, you're being a sore loser.
Yeah, be careful what you say. Even like in Mary's position, like she probably overshared a little bit. But it's hard to. It's hard to when you're winning like that, and you've had so little up until this point. So like, not great, but definitely worse from Say.
And flip the script. I bet Say would have said something about how happy she was to finally win if they were able to pull something off. It felt like some double standards. And, you know, now that they're on opposite tribes, apparently Mary and Say still can't get along.
I like how we're going to get a little bit later. Like, you know, I know that you're, you know, aligned with her, but that was just such a like strange thing for her to say. And I was kind of shocked that Mary didn't use that as an opportunity to be like, yeah, we're not though. We're not aligned.
Yeah.
Well, and I especially I love that all Jeff has to do is just like grease the lamppost just a little bit, and both Mary and Say are unable to do anything from that point onward.
So Bianca, she's like, oh no, my number one ally's gone. I'm definitely not going to follow him out of the game. Time to build some new relationships.
Definitely.
And so she's going to use this opportunity because people find Say irritating. So when people talk about that, she's like, okay, yeah, we can get rid of Say. Chrissy wants her out. Mitch wants her out. And now that a Loggy member is gone from the other tribe who was in the majority, they're like, oh, we don't have to focus on getting another Loggy out. We can take out Say. Bianca, you want to join us to take out Say? Yes, please.
It makes sense. Loggy is, you know, theoretically weakened a little bit.
Yep.
And if you're looking at the merge, even if it comes, who knows? Maybe next episode. We don't know. You don't really need to take another one down.
But on the flip side, Say doesn't like Chrissy because Chrissy kind of acts like a mom in the island because she's like counting the amount of fruit Say is eating. So, you know, don't, again, with the food, don't like confront people to their face about how much food they're eating. Talk about them behind their backs.
And in reality, this should not matter.
This shouldn't matter. But like,
just because
all
like if people
irritate.
little things irritate, like this matters 3 episodes ago. Late pre-merge as you're approaching the merge, these types of things probably should not matter because the decision making for voting someone out probably shouldn't be based off of, you know, how you get along with them in tribe.
But if it's between two people, let's say Chrissy and Mitch are the two on the chopping block. Well, we get along with Mitch slightly better.
Sure.
It could be
Sure.
that little.
For Say, though, we also need to be aware of a little thing called banana etiquette.
Mm-hmm.
Would you like a banana?
James learned a lot about this in Heroes versus Villains, right?
Yes, that was Heroes versus Villains.
The great Amanda Kimmel taught him a lesson about banana etiquette. Say, don't mess with the food, especially if you weren't much of a contributor.
Yep.
I'm not saying that it should matter, but if people on your tribe care, you need to know. And then just placate and then talk about Chrissy behind her back.
Yep, exactly.
Better players would do this.
Over on Loggy won rewards. They get to go to the Survivor Sanctuary where good things happen. And I just wanted to, like, this doesn't matter at all, but I thought it was funny and I wanted to talk about it. David likes milk a lot. Milk. He wants a glass of milk.
Yeah, what about that mulk?
And he's so excited about it, which I think is funny. But he's also, I need to stop down and talk about this. He likes whole milk. That's his favorite. He was so excited they got a glass of whole milk, which I think is bonkers insane, but maybe I'm wrong. And he's like starts slamming 2%, which I think is wild that he's just like, yeah, 2% sucks, all about that whole milk. And I'm over here like, I get skim milk when I get it. And I know that's a little unusual, but I'm just like, he's slamming 2%. Now, I really need to know, David, what do you think? I know you're a huge fan of the podcast. David, I want your opinion on skim milk. I need to hear this. So
I know exactly what he would say. He would say, oh, well, why don't you just drink water?
That's exactly what he would say. It's
Because
water.
that's exactly what someone who would drink whole milk would say. Drinking skim milk is borderline psychotic. But I would kind of say whole milk is as well. I don't care if you do 1% or 2%, but those are, in my opinion, the only two options.
This is not the official gameplay listener question, but I'm throwing it to the listeners anyway. Skim
Yeah.
milk, 1%, 2% whole milk, and we're talking standard white milk
Yep.
here.
Chocolate milk is too easy an answer.
Chocolate milk is too easy. Strawberry milk is too niche.
Yep.
We're going with those four.
And
So
no
sound
raw
off.
milk.
Yeah, you know what? Raw milk too. I don't care. Just pick your favorite milk, and if David responds,
I would love a response from David. And
he wins.
Yeah, and I'll be honest. Before this episode of Survivor, if we were gonna do this milk question, I wouldn't have put whole milk on there because I would have said nobody drinks whole milk. Is that like just for infants? But apparently not.
No.
I guess I always thought like, oh, that's mostly just for infants and stuff like that. People who really need that additional calcium and whatnot. And I'm mind blown by this. This is crazy. Yeah, and I just need answers.
And the only other thing worth mentioning about this, you know what, people, you got to find yourself someone who looks at you the same way that David on day 9 of Survivor looks at a glass of whole milk. I mean, I was just waiting for Total Eclipse of the Heart to start playing.
I mean, I heard a little bit of background music there.
Oh,
I'm like,
yeah.
all right,
They were
they're
doing like a
bringing it
love
in.
ballad. Yeah, I didn't know that drinking skim was considered psychotic until I got to college and I met you guys.
What's the point?
I don't know. That's what I always drank growing up. That's all I ever had. That's what we have at my house growing up. That's what I still get just because it's what I've had. It's better for you.
The last glass of skim milk that I drank is the sickest that I've ever been without food poisoning. It felt like gravel rolling through my intestines, and I can't explain it. Like, I'm lactose sensitive. You think that whole milk would be worse for me than skim? But the last time I had skim, it seriously felt like a gravel road, like a car driving down a gravel road in my intestines. And I'll never do it again. I'll never have
It
skim
ain't
milk again.
natural.
That ain't right.
I had a bunch of skim milk earlier. I had oatmeal for lunch today, and I had a bunch of skim milk.
Mm.
Hell yeah. Oatmeal is the best, by the way. I want to put it out there. I know we're completely off topic, but I need to put this out there because I get roasted at work for liking oatmeal, and I love oatmeal.
What's wrong with oatmeal?
I don't know.
Oatmeal is
Kind of weird.
Well, no, oatmeal is a very nutritious and filling and lasting, like satiating food. Oatmeal
Sure,
is
but it
great.
tastes like
Delicious.
dog-ass.
No, it's delicious.
Do you add a little sugar to it?
I get the maple brown sugar one.
Yeah, what's your problem, Josh? The maple brown sugar oatmeal is elite.
It's elite.
Tastes like poo.
Okay, another listener question out there. Thoughts on oatmeal?
We're just really piling them on tonight. I love it.
Things that matter.
Yeah, look, my mind has been blown by this whole David situation. So I just need more. I need more opinions to come in and just to see where I'm really at in the world. Majority opinion wise, I need more data.
I'm with you on oatmeal, but you cannot get me there on skim milk.
So Loggy, they'll talk about it. They're all anti-say now. And Charity kind of has this like emotional moment, like, guys, I'm just so close to you. We're like family. It's all about family, Dom. I just feel so close to all of you. And Eva is like, this is such phony baloney. Even Eva, she's like, no, absolutely not. This is the fakest crap anyone's ever seen. So yeah, I don't think Charity's gonna last a whole lot longer.
Authenticity is important, and Charity clearly has been pegged by a couple different versions of her tribes now as one of the least authentic people out there.
Keep in mind as well that this has been 3 days with the new tribe. If you want to say like, oh, I love you guys and everything with your original starting tribe after, 9 days or something. Sure. I can buy into that. After 3 days with a swapped tribe, just because you won a reward. No, you need a bigger bonding moment like we'll get to on another tribe.
Very nice toss over to Vula because they got second place, so they're just hanging out at camp with a smaller reward, but they end up bonding over parental trauma, like the trauma their parents went through is how I should phrase it. Because holy crap, Shahid's dad was a prisoner of war in the Iraq-Iran war. Camilla's family had to deal with genocide in Sri Lanka, and Joe's parents, Joe's dad's black, his mom's white, and they were in Jim Crow, Virginia. dealing with that crap. Oh my God, it just gets super heavy and it really bonds the four of them together, and the four of them are going to make an alliance. And honestly, I'm here for it. I want them to be part of the final six. We'll throw in Eva, and we'll throw in Mary, and we'll throw in David, and that's my top seven, ideally.
This is this is awesome just because I think that this is such a natural block. At one time, they just say like this, we are the block. But look at me, I am the block now. I want this to happen so badly because the two and the two, they're gonna, they have the situation going on where they have to potentially, if they lose the next challenge, go heads up against each other, or maybe get someone to sway for a 3-1 vote. Maybe I don't, would they do a fire making challenge if it ends up being a tie, or a rock draw? I don't know. But this works so well because even if they do end up getting through to the merge, these are two tight duos that don't really have anymore, at least, a third waiting for them on the other side. Like they might have a casual third or fourth person, but not really like a serious third or fourth person. So this is such a good situation for these guys. I loved it so much.
This Lagi Siva cross pollination is what is going to make the merge dynamic. It is what is going to be the merge dynamic. I think what happens with this group of four right here, because the other two, for all intents and purposes, are still Lagi versus Siva, it seems. But this one, I can see this muddying the waters.
For sure.
And I should say the one person I wasn't really considering is Eva in this, just because she's the closest to Joe. So yeah, it's not a perfect just foursome that can go to the final four and just mop up. But yeah, there's an extra person too.
Yep. They could bring in Eva, they could bring in David and Chrissy, and then they cut those people into the top four. Who knows? But it's a fun group, and I was really rooting for them. So Josh and I were texting during the immunity challenge, and we're just both like, please not Vula for Tribal Cup. Please let Vula win this one. I don't want to see these four get broken up. Luckily, we don't, because Vula's going to win immunity. And what's really fun in this challenge is the final segment is get a ball through a table maze and land it in the hole. But there's four of them, and everybody who's competing in the challenge has to get one. Love this. More of this, Survivor.
It's like Heroes Relay. It's really cool.
Everyone's got to pull their own weight here. And it's going to come down to Eva versus Say. And Eva eventually gets it. Loggy gets second, but this was very emotionally draining for her. And she has an episode, as she calls it, during and after the challenge. So we get a really, really crazy powerful moment where Joe, who's on a different tribe, goes over and hugs her and comforts her and helps her through the episode and helps her calm down. And my note is, goddamn, I'm not crying, you're crying.
We're all crying.
Wow. That was heavy. That was really, really powerful. Even Jeff Probst was, he got with the tears more than any other time in Survivor history.
Yeah, he said
wow.
This is something that's never happened before, as far as, him crying, I guess, on camera. And I don't think I can remember a time when he's cried on camera.
He's teared up a little bit once at a family visit when Brenda's dad visited on Survivor Caramel, just a little bit. But this was like full on, like genuinely, I'm having a hard time speaking.
It's when discussions of father-daughter come up and they're particularly powerful or emotional. I mean, just to link those two things, but I think Jeff talked about it specifically tonight. That must just be something that's really, really important to him personally. And
He's got kids.
Yeah, it hits him on an emotional level. I've got kids, but I also understand, and I've been told, I cannot verify, there's a different emotional bond with like a father and a daughter. I can't explain it. I don't know what it is, but it seemed to be at play tonight with Jeff.
So, yeah, really powerful moment that really, really touches everybody. So back at Loggy, this allows Star to see Eva in a new light, because Eva's going to tell everybody she's got autism and really tell her story here. And so this makes Star kind of want to like refresh her own game, hit the refresh button on her game, reconnect with Eva, reconnect with her tribe. They have a great bonding moment, and then Star reveals, "Hey, I have the Beware advantage. Will you guys come help me solve this thing?" They go out there. Eva's the one to solve it, and so the two of them, Star and Eva, like hug it out. And Star's gonna give Eva her idol because Eva's the one who figured out the puzzle. Star's like, "Well, you earned it." let's use this, we're together now. We're an alliance. Here's the alliance. Here's the idol. Here's a gesture of goodwill. We're together. Eva's on board with this. It's a crazy, powerful, questionable gameplay moment.
It's
Wow.
it's interesting because Star is in a really unique position right now in this game where it seems like she has really struggled socially.
Yeah.
She, at least on her starter tribe, it seemed, we don't know for sure, but it seemed like she was going to be the first one voted out. And then once they merged, Eva was already gunning for Star, and it seemed like, Star could have been the first one voted out on this merge tribe, or the swap tribe. So from Star's point of view, just handing something like this over or making it super public information, while in theory, it feels wrong. I think it's actually a really sneaky good play for her in her position. I don't think it was intentional, which is like a major thing that I would like to point out here is I think that she was caught up in a moment and just did it just because it felt like it was a good thing to do. But as far as like correct gameplay for her gameplay, now that it was public information, and remember that in the original tribe, a lot of people already knew about this beware advantage. So it was kind of already public. One, she has her vote back, and two, the knowledge of where the idol is no longer painting a target on Star. It's now potentially painting a target on Eva, and maybe she can use it as a bonding moment.
Josh, I think you're right. I think we can improve it a little bit because we were, and that's based on where we're at in the game because they don't technically know this, but it's a decent guess. Hey, the merge is next, or they earn the merge, or whatever we're doing next week, which confirmed. I think Star could have had her cake and eaten it too if she'd held onto the idol and maybe play it at the next immunity challenge or the next tribal council, especially in this earn the merge spot, just to get her through this, just in case. I think she could have held on to the idol and still gotten all the benefits. But you know what? I will say this: I do think it was a net positive for her still, even with handing the idol, which is crazy. But I do think like she genuinely built a social bond that she was seriously lacking in her game. The only social connection we really saw her make on the other tribe was with Thomas and Bianca. Uh-oh. Uh,
Yeah,
so yeah,
one connection is better than zero connections.
yes.
And I saw her, going into this episode, I saw her as having zero connections. And, outside of, Say being Say, she was the next least likely person to win this game in my eyes. Again, that might just be because of the edit. Who knows what's actually going on the island? But at least this feels like she has some sort of alliance member now. Who knows after they merge if it's actually going to end up being a thing? But it's something.
And she got her vote back.
I'll just weigh in really quickly. I don't, from a gameplay perspective, we're talking about how this builds a social bond with Eva. If there's one thing that my life and building social bonds has taught me, grand gestures don't often work if you're looking for a genuine social bond. It's the little stuff every day. And maybe she's doing that. And in Survivor, the grand gesture is really hitting that reset button where we can play with each other. Maybe that is the case here. She should have kept this idol for herself and just used the knowledge of it, I think, as a building moment. I don't think giving it up does anything other than get the target off of her. But she put it onto someone that she wants to work with, which also doesn't make a ton of sense. And I think it's also going to galvanize old Siva to come against Loggy because, oh, well, here's Loggy just doing more Loggy things.
You make a good point.
So I agree it should probably be burned. And hopefully they can burn it correctly wherever Star and Eva find their place come earn the merge.
So Siva's going to tribal council. Lost in all of this. Siva's going to tribal council. So on paper, it looks like it's 2v2, which is what Bianca wants to do. It's Chrissy and Mitch. They want to take out Say. Say and Cedric are gunning for Chrissy. And Bianca's like, I want to play both sides right here and get a 2-2 going because then on a revote, it can't be me. I don't have to tell anybody I lost my vote. They might figure it out and realize I was lying, but I'll be safe. And I'm like, okay, this is a pretty decent plan. I like this so far. But Chrissy and Mitch, they're gonna be like, hey, Cedric, come join us. We want Say out. So they're Cedric says he's in. He's not, but he says he's in. And so they go tell Bianca, like, hey, Cedric's in, we're all voting Say. So now Bianca's like, okay, now what do I do? Do I, I'll go talk to Cedric and make sure he's good. One, he's not. Cedric still wants to take out Chrissy. And so Bianca's like, oh, dang it. Now do I reveal that I have no vote to Cedric to make sure he votes the right way? And Bianca's going to tell Cedric she doesn't have a vote to get him to vote for Say, so there won't be a tie. Basically, her thought process was, I want him to be able to trust me. Cedric does not take it that way. Cedric sees this as a reason not to trust her. Oh, poor
Because
Bianca.
she reveals this information, in Cedric's words, minutes before leaving.
Yep.
So I think she's trying to time this perfectly to where she can give Cedric this information and he can turn on Say without her being at risk, really, of him turning it on her, which in theory, sure, but you are also playing with someone else's game here.
Yep.
And Cedric is going to take that personally.
Yep. And Say warned Bianca, don't trust Cedric. Don't do it.
I'd think twice before working with Cedric.
So apparently, before Tribal Council, and this was minutes beforehand, but apparently it seems like Cedric talked to Chrissy and told her to vote for Bianca because she was lying and doesn't actually have a vote. So it gets a little fuzzy here because at Tribal Council, Mitch votes for Say. Did he not know? Was he, or did they not have time to tell him, or was he just like a safety net? Like, hey, we'll keep one vote on Say, one vote Bianca. Say votes for Chrissy. Obviously, Bianca doesn't vote, so we get 2 votes for Bianca from Cedric and Chrissy. 1 vote for Say, 1 vote for Chrissy. And I'm just like, WTF? Wow. So yeah, I don't know if Mitch knew. I don't know.
It's pretty clear that Say didn't.
Say didn't know, but
No.
did Mitch know?
My guess is we're gonna get clarity back on the beach. If it was intentional, then cool. You have the hinky vote on Say, which isn't the worst thing in the world. But I want to go back to Bianca's decision to bring in Cedric last minute, because we've talked on this podcast before about doing things last minute and making sure that you're the last person to check in with your alliance, and how that is sort of some meta gameplay that gets discussed between players and other podcasts on social media. This is where it can turn on you. If you have someone who wants the time to think about it, it can be construed as disrespectful to say, well, I'm cluing you in. Yeah, but you're cluing me in before I have a chance to actually do anything with this information. So, like, thanks a lot, I guess. It's kind of like, you're going to drive into a brick wall, but at the last second, you tell them they can put on their seatbelt. Like, it's not fair. I think Bianca should have not said this at all. And the reason I say this, because we've seen Sarah Lucina get voted out because she was playing the middle. Say and Chrissy were gunning for each other. It's different if you're trying to pit 2 sides against each other. Enemy of the state, that's the risk.
Yep.
They were already gunning for each other. All you had to do was stoke the flame. And nobody would blame her for being like, hey, I didn't have a vote. That wasn't my choice. I just needed to get through. Do your damage control and just try to get back to Lagi.
Yep. I see what her thought process was. Shouldn't have trusted Cedric.
Well, and like, so from Bianca's point of view, she just lost Thomas, who was her closest ally. And I think that she is feeling like she needs to, reach out and make some sort of connection here. And I think that's really pressuring her into trying to give information to Cedric to try to build that bond going forward into the late pre-merge or merge situation. And I think that is the main motivation for why she told Cedric at the last minute here. But you kind of just have to put that aside. You have to just take your relationships and be okay trying to form those connections once you merge. And even if you didn't tell them all the information, if they're good enough Survivor players, they should understand, like, oh yeah, I understand what position you're in, and you decided not to tell us that you didn't have a vote because you were the one individual tribe member in a group of five. Like, if you are in that situation, you just have to just roll with it. It's not going to be ideal. You're not in an ideal situation at all. So it just roll with it basically, and then deal with it after you merge.
I agree.
So we already ran through everything at Tribal Council. We know what happened here. So the next big decision that we need to talk about from a gameplay perspective, Cedric this time.
Yep.
I'm not sure who wants to start. Maybe Ryan. I think you should start.
Yeah. So I actually end up liking this move for Cedric because his closest ally in the game is Say. Say is going to draw a lot of fire. Great meat shield, like not in a good way, but like a toxic meat shield. uh, and so keeping her in the game and convincing Chrissy to go along with it, that's impressive, first of all. So I like this for Cedric that he managed to pull this off. What I don't like is for Chrissy going along with this because Say is someone who is gunning for Chrissy. Chrissy be like, oh, well, can't trust Bianca as much, but you know what? That's a problem for later day. We're still gonna go for Say. So props to Cedric for making this work, but I don't think Chrissy should have gone along with this. So, which brings us to who should have gone home. Was this the right move? I'm gonna say no. That it should have been Say. Chrissy and Mitch should have just stuck together and gone for Say.
I think that it was the right move. I like this move for Cedric, and I like this move for original Vula. I think when you look at what Logi is as a remaining 5 core strong, it makes more sense for Vula to try and go with Siva than try and break up what is left of Logi 5, especially if there is any indication that they were extremely close. So Cedric, I think, builds more bridges this way than going through with some kind of tie situation and ending up with, say, going home if on a revote or something like that. And weirdly enough, I don't want to necessarily bring age into this, but we know enough about Chrissy and enough about Cedric that they are no nonsense straight shooters. I think they will end up trusting each other more than almost anybody else in this game. And Mitch being tied into that, who has a bond with Cedric and a bond now with, and had a bond with Chrissy, that is a pretty darn good trio. And then they have the toxic meat shield, as Ryan says, with Say. The fact that he was able to loop her in, I think she will be so appreciative that it was, hey, I know I said yes to voting Say, and I might have ended up voting you, but brought Chrissy in and instead turned enemies to allies for him and gets to keep Say as a further meat shield. So I really, really like this move for as critical as I've been on Cedric in the past.
Well, everything you just said is very positive for Cedric, which I agree with, but like that still doesn't give me a good enough reason for why this was good for Chrissy.
Because I think it's good for Siva to build bonds with original Vula as well to go against original Logi, which seems like a really strong group.
Well, we don't know for sure Mitch did. We don't know if Mitch was clued in. So let's take Mitch out of the equation. That is literally just Chrissy then. Say was gunning for Chrissy. So get rid of someone who's gunning for you. So I firmly disagree with you that I think Chrissy should have stuck with her guns, original guns, and taken out Say. Because this is strictly individual at this point. You can't look at it as Siva because it's literally just one vote. It's just Chrissy.
On the flip side, this guarantees that Chrissy doesn't go home tonight. Because remember, Cedric was going to vote against Chrissy. So by building a bridge with Cedric,
all Chrissy has to do is be like, yeah, I'll vote for Bianca. And then, they split between Bianca and Chrissy, and then they put both of their votes on Say.
And then you're burning bridges. This way, Chrissy gets to play defense. Cedric gets to keep his toxic partner who can't win the game. And Bianca, who was being a little duplicitous, goes home.
That's still not good enough for me. Chrissy should have
voted. That is good enough for me.
I think this was the right move. Mostly from I was going from Cedric's point of view here. Honestly, wasn't even thinking about Chrissy's point of view. It matters. Yes. I was thinking more of, does it make sense for Cedric to flip on Say or try to get something else in the works to get out Bianca? That was the point of view that I was going from here. I said that it was the right move just because I think that his alliance with Say, while Rocky clearly is more important going into the merge than one that he's had for just a few days with Bianca. So I think that's the most important thing, at least in this conversation. We were not shown anything in terms of what happened with the conversation with Chrissy, uh, why Mitch might have voted however he voted. Did he know? Did he not? Who knows? Why did Cedric not tell Say? Like these are all really important things that we were not told. I have a feeling that it's going to be one of the very first things that we get a flashback on next episode. We'll see. But just given the information that we were fed through the edit, I said it was the right move.
Okay, so you said you didn't take Chrissy's perspective into account.
Correct. Because we didn't have that information of why, like what was said to her.
I don't know.
We don't know.
We don't know, but like I need something on that.
Well, from her perspective, Alagi went home and Vula is dead in the water. Like, it's not bad for Chrissy to want to weaken Lagi, original Lagi.
It had to have been a really compelling argument for her to switch her vote, because from her point of view, the only two things that matter is that it's not her and it's not Mitch. Anyone else, honestly, who cares?
And I'm with Josh on that.
Okay. From that perspective, like it's not Siva. You're right. You're right. I just don't think it was the most optimal move for them.
But we did ask social media if they thought the right person got voted out tonight.
I'm gonna guess no.
And actually, it was pretty dead even. On average, I would say about 55% of people said that no, the wrong person went home tonight, according to social media.
Okay. This is a weird one. I'm glad that we're split.
Yeah, social media is right this time.
Hey, wait, right. No, I disagree. No, I said the right person went home, so too bad.
All right, let's get into best and worst player of the episode. Josh, start us off. Who is your best player of the episode?
Oh, great. The one thing that I, wasn't fully decided on is the one that I have to go first on. Great.
Welcome.
There was a lot of like, how do I put it? Like two-sided gameplay here where there was a lot of moves that were good, but also had a hint of bad in them. So like, even though it was a really good moment with like Joe and Eva, for example, there was a really bad part of that where a relationship was extremely exposed. So it's like I have to exclude them in there, and I know that also includes Eva getting an idol that's just gifted to her from Star. At the same time, like I just started to exclude people when it came to like anyone like Star on that tribe, just because she did give up an idol, even though I thought it was a good like gameplay move. So like I don't really know. Like it feels like it's good, but I'm not too sure. And then you got a whole lot of nothing from a lot of other people. I kind of want to give it to someone on Vula just because it seemed like they had the strongest bond that was created in this episode. Kind of an honorable mention for Cedric just because I think he made the right decision here, but it's just all a mess over there. Because Joe's relationship with Eva was a little exposed, I'm going to exclude him. So that leaves Shaheen, Kyle, and Camilla. I don't know. I'll go with Camilla. Okay. I don't have a good reasoning for a tiebreaker between those three. I just knew that I wanted to pick one of those three. And I was hoping that I'd get a clear answer at some point while recording here. And I don't have one. So shot in the dark, going with her.
Okay. I'm going to give mine to Eva. Yes, her relationship was exposed, but I think she made that social connection with a lot of people on her tribe. She really rebuilt trust with Star, and got an idol in the process, and the whole thing seemed very genuine. And also she got she tells us that she's not very good at spotting a lie, but she did spot, or at least believe she thinks that Charity is being phony, which tracks with what other people have said. So that's something. So I'm gonna give it to Eva, regardless of the Joe relationship exposure.
I'm going to give it to Cedric. I think when you do something really good with that little time to do it, he saved his number one. Building bonds with old Sivas better than being number 7 on a potential link up with Lagi, and everything else I already mentioned. So I'm going to give this one to Cedric.
Fair. I think that's fair. Honorable mention to Cedric from me. For worst player, I'm going to give mine to Say for her poor social game, and she wasn't even in on the vote at Tribal Council, so she was completely left out.
Say.
It's
Yeah, cool.
and like I said, everything else that we were gonna go through were all just super easy for me.
So we're coming into the Earn the Merge, it seems, next week. 13 people, one beach. Who knows what's going to happen? One person's going. Who is it going to be, Derek?
Say.
I wanted to put down Say. I really did. Um, I did not. And I was trying to figure out who was a person that, you know, kind of like I feel like Ryan has talked about this a lot, especially in maybe like our rewinds a little bit more. But who is the person going into the merge who has had the least amount of connections that have been made? And Chrissy is the person that stood out the most for me, just because she stayed on her original tribe and really only has bonded with Mitch. It seems like there isn't really close connections being built with outside members. We saw the foursome on Vula get super close. We saw Eva and Star kind of rekindle something and make bonds with the other people on their tribe. The one that went to tribal council tonight it doesn't really seem like they're in that spot. So as far as actual good working connections go, Mitch and Chrissy seem to be the ones that are a little bit on the outside there. So kind of where we're at, shot in the dark, I'm gonna go with Chrissy.
I went with a similar thought process to Josh, but I ended up on Say. Because again, like not very many connections. The only one Say really has is Cedric, and that is tumultuous. So when half the tribe will probably be immune, so who knows? But like, who is gonna go to bat to try and save somebody in the next episode? The only person who might try and save Say is Cedric. But he has even said like, I know I need to let her go at some point. So I just don't know if he'll have the pull to save her or if he'll even try. And nobody else is going to step in for Say. So Say is my pick.
Historical survivor would suggest maybe David because Siva's still pretty whole and he's a very good merge boot.
Yep.
So I'll throw out David, but Say is still my pick.
The other two people I had written down were Say and Cedric. So yeah.
Charity, someone I could see again who's going to step in to try and save her. Maybe Mitch.
But who also knows what the Earn the Merge BS is going to be this time. So we'll stay tuned.
On a similar note, I'm guessing who cannot win this game. We're only doing one this week because this is the last episode of the pre-merge, but starting next week, it's two. So I think it'll get a little more interesting. Josh, who can't win this game?
It's Say.
Yep.
Say.
Slam dunk Say.
No new forks.
Okay, let's get into the survivor pool. Derek, you had Camilla last week. I had Camilla last week. It was a push. We were both making it into this episode. Did anyone in our listener group have Bianca?
No.
No. So
No
everyone
one had
survives.
Bianca, so all listeners are still in who
Yeah,
were
who
still
were in
in
last
going into this episode. As mentioned before, we lost a few, including myself. Sad day.
Ripperoni pizza. Okay, so Derek, you and I get to make new picks. I'll go first.
And as a reminder as well, neither of you guys picked Bianca. So another one bites the dust for you guys.
It happens. We're going into a potentially chaotic situation. I want hardware. Eva has an idol. Eva's my pick.
Oh, yeah. I've been saving people with hardware for exactly this reason. I'm picking Eva.
And we got another push.
Well,
Shocker.
It's a push, but I think we're both pretty darn safe.
Yeah. We're right.
So, yeah, it's got to be Eva. This is exactly why I haven't picked people with hardware.
Yep. That's fair.
Now there's a lot of listeners who have picked Eva, so we'll see.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Exciting. We could have a listener bloodbath.
Another one.
Another one. I'm here for it. Love a good bloodbath as long as I'm not the one getting cut.
A survivor pool aside.
Yes, a survivor pool aside. Okay, last thing to do, it's stupid. But the last thing we have to do is, because this is the end of the pre-merge, we have to check in and we have to do a best and worst player of the pre-merge. Oh yeah, and we have to check in with our winner picks and see if we would change them. So that's what we got to do here, midway point of the season. It's time. Derek, who is your best player of the pre-merge?
I'm going to give it to Kyle. I think with what Siva has been able to do and what Kyle and Camilla have been able to do has been fantastic. The differentiator is the big move that they pulled off last week. Kyle was never in any danger during this maneuver because he had the idol. So while Kyle and Camilla are both deserving of this, just because of the hardware play, I will give edge Kyle for now. But if you want someone who's like a little bit sneakier, depending on the vibe, I could have very well given this to Camilla for being a little more chameleon going in. But I kind of like that Kyle is chameleoned up and Camilla's sort of like chameleon down. New Era Survivor seems to favor the chameleon up in the pre-merge, so we'll see.
Josh?
And that's why I'm going with Camilla here.
I like
Those
it.
were the two people that I was looking at. And I think just because it seems like her game has been a little bit more subtle, and I'm saying like a little, barely at all, because we have gotten confirmation basically from other people like, oh, we kind of see Camilla as a threat. Like she's playing a good game so far. So that's the one, a little bit of a red flag, maybe a beige flag there for Camilla. But just because Kyle had the idol play, I could see him having a little bit more of, the threat coming at him in early post merge. So that's why I gave it to her instead.
Okay. I have Camilla for my best player of the pre-merge. Everything Josh said.
Huzzah!
Huzzah. Worst player of the pre-merge, Josh, who you got?
I'm going to say no additional comments needed.
I agree. I also have say.
It's Say.
All right, last thing we got to do, we got to check in with our winner picks. Currently, Josh and I both have Camilla. Derek, who do you have?
Joe.
Joe, how's everybody feeling? Would anybody change theirs? I feel great with mine.
I feel great with mine.
I don't have enough to change. If I were to change, it would be it would almost be to Kyle, but he's a lawyer, so no, I'm gonna stick with Joe.
All right.
I think what we saw in this episode almost confirms why I thought that it was a bad winner pick in the premiere. I mean, it was a fantastic moment. It was a fantastic moment for TV, entertainment, for being, a human being on Survivor and having, the cross-pollination of tribes in an immunity challenge, being able to comfort Eva. All that was fantastic, but it, it shows how close they are together. And we talked about in the premiere that at some point in this game, he might do some things that might be the only thing that comes up, or, more can come up in the post merge between Joe and Eva that, hurts his game. But it's your winner pick.
Every once in a while, Tom Westman wins.
Yeah, it's season 10. Things have changed, Eric.
Eh,
I agree with Josh. I think Joe is a wonderful person and a bad winner pick.
We are due a hero winner. We haven't had one since season 30.
Well, since Ben.
That's
He was
a
the
little
hero.
different, I guess.
Season heroes.
Yes,
Literally.
I gathered. Yeah.
We're due nothing, I would say.
We're
So.
due nothing, but I feel comfortable, more comfortable than I should.
Yes.
Good for you.
Yes. More comfortable than you should. Agreed. Okay. That wraps up this episode. We're merging it up next week, or in the merging or whatever. Everyone lives on this beat. It's a merge. So that'll be exciting. In the meantime, social media.
Yeah, you can follow us on a bunch of social medias at Castaway Pod, videos on TikTok, YouTube, Facebook at Castaway Consultants. We have a website, which is thecastawayconsultants.com. And I think Derek might have some stuff for Spotify.
The listener question of the week. I'm going to go back to Star giving up her idol to Eva. In a vacuum, you're dropped into Star's spot, you have no social connections, and you need a grand gesture. Do you give up your idol, or is revealing the idol enough? How would you handle that situation? Reply on Spotify, and if you're still in the Survivor pool, make sure you keep up with that and let us know next week's pick.
Sounds good. This has been the Castaway Consultants.
Got nothing else for you.
Good night.